Buddhadhamma, the last section to chapter 5, page 532. This is the appendix, the 12 kinds of kamma. Now, the presentation and the commentaries and the sub-commentaries are on the 12 kinds of kamma are classified as 3 groups of 4. Can be summarized as follows. Group number 1, classified according to time of taken effect, the time of ripening, etc. So this is, in Pali language, pakakala. Number 1, Buddhadhamma vetaniya kamma. Number 2, upajavetananiya kamma. Number 3, aparapariya vedaniya kamma. And number 4, ahosi-kamma. Now, Buddhadhamma vedaniya kamma is immediately effective kamma. Kamma bearing fruit in the present. In this state of existence, either good or bad kamma, performed at the time of the first impulsive mind moment, javana sita, meaning mind moment of running through an object. Altogether, there are 7 such mind moments in one cognitive series. Javana viti, the first javana sita, is also referred to the first intentional impulse, javana setana. This kind of kamma only bears fruit in this lifetime. If it does not have the opportunity to bear fruit in this lifetime, it becomes ahosi-kamma. It will no longer bear fruit. We will go in this in the below. The reason it bears fruit in this lifetime is that it constitutes the first moment of intention, and it is not subject to other forms of kamma. It manifests as initial volitional activity exerting a unique influence. Despite its influence, it bears no fruit beyond this lifetime because it is not habitually repeated, and thus its effects are minor or negligible. This is compared to a hunter who sees a deer, grabs an arrow or a rifle, and immediately shoots. If he strikes the target, that deer falls on the spot, but if he misses, the deer escapes. Number 2, upajavedaniya kamma. Kamma bearing fruit in this lifetime. The next state of existence, either good or bad action, performed at the time of the final impulsive mind moment, the javana sita. At the 7th mind moment in one cognitive series. This final javana sita is also referred to the 7th intentional impulse. This kind of action only bears fruit in the next lifetime. If it does not have the opportunity to bear fruit in this next lifetime, it becomes ahosi-kamma. The reason it bears fruit in the next lifetime is that it is comprised at the final moment of intention. It fulfills one inclination and it inherits the habitual repetition from previous moments of intention. At the same time, however, its power is limited because it is the mind movement at which the cognitive series, the javana viti, comes to an end. And number 3, aparapariya vedaniya kamma. Indefinitely effective kamma bearing fruit in subsequent states of existence, either good or bad kamma, performed during the 5 intermediate impulse mind movements, between the 2nd and the 6th impulsive mind movement, or the intentional impulses, in one cognitive series. This kind of karma bears fruit continually in the future, beyond the next lifetime. It bears fruit whenever there is an opportunity, as long as one remains in the round of rebirth, samsaravata. It does not become a ahosi-kamma. It is compared to a hound chasing a deer. Whenever it catches up to the deer, it clamps its teeth on it. And the last in group number 4, ahosi-kamma. Kamma ceasing to bear fruit, either good or bad action that has had no opportunity to bear fruit during the time when it had the potential to bear fruit. When this time has passed by, it no longer bears fruit. The term ahosi-kamma was originally used in the Pali language to denote previously performed kamma, rather than kamma ceasing to bear fruit. Kamma, action, having already borne fruit. The commentators, however, use it with a specific meaning of existing kamma devoid of fruit, vipaka. Now in group number 2, there are another 4, classified according to the function of kicha in respect of fruitation. Number 5 is janaka-kamma. 6 is upadhamma-kamma. Number 7 is upadilaka-kamma. And number 8, upajakata-kamma. The first one in group number 2, number 5, is productive kamma. Kamma leading to birth, either good or bad action. Intention, causing the birth of the skanda, which constitutes the fruit of action, vipaka. Both at the moment of conception, pati santi, and during the entire course of one's life, paviti kala. Number 6, the second in the group of 2, upadhamma-kamma, supportive kamma. Action associated with productive action that is unable to bear fruit on its own, but supports or consolates productive action, causing the happiness and unhappiness arising within the aggregates, the skanda, to exist for a long time. The third one in group number 2, number 7, is upadilaka-kamma, obstructive action. Action opposed to productive action, which acts to obstruct the fruit of both productive action and supportive action, causing the happiness and unhappiness arising within the aggregates, the skanda, to exist for a short time. And lastly, number 4 in group number 2, 8, upajataka-kamma, destructive action, potential or potent obstructive kamma that serves the power of less potent forms of action, supplanting and overriding them. An example to parecade by jakata satu, which nullified the wholesome deeds. The last group is group number 3. Number 9, garuka-kamma. Number 10, bahula-kamma. And number 11, asanya-kamma. And lastly, number 12, katata-kamma, or katawapana-kamma. The first one in group number 3, these are classified according to the strength in bearing fruit. Pakadana pariyaya. So garuka-kamma, weighty action, action with exceptionally powerful effects. On the positive side, this refers to the 8 concentrative attainments, sammapati. On the negative side, it refers to the 5 hideous deeds, anatiriya-kamma. It tends to bear fruit first and overrides other forms of action, similar to a large reservoir overflowing in the banks and flooding smaller bodies of water. The second one in group number 3, number 10, is bahula-kamma. Habitual action, either good or bad action, performed frequently and made habitual. constant moral or immoral behavior. Whichever action has been performed repeatedly and possesses more power bears fruit first. This is similar to two wrestlers. Whichever one is stronger and more proficient wins. In the case that no weighty action exists, habitual action bears fruit. The third one in group number 3, number 11, ahosi-kamma. This is proximate action. Death threshold action. The action that one performs or remembers immediately before one dies, and that has recently made an impression on one's mind. If the two aforementioned kinds of action do not exist, then this proximate action bears fruit. It is noteworthy, however, that the Buddhadhamma Pavani states that proximate action bears fruit before habitual action, ahosi-kamma. This is similar to a pen crowded with crows, or a pen crowded with cows. When the cowherd opens the gate, the cow closest to the gate exists, even if it is old and frail. The last one in group number 3 is 12, Buddhadhamma, or Buddhadhamma. This is a casual act, reserved action, action performed with weak intention, or action performed indirectly with some other intention in mind. This is a mild form of action. It is similar to an arrow shot by a madman. Whenever the 3 aforementioned kinds of action do not exist, the reserved action bears fruit. The Buddhadhamma Sangha contains that another set of 4 kamma for a total of 16 kinds. Group number 4, classified according to location, the fear of existence, bhava, the effect. 13, akusala-kamma. 14, kamma-vachakara kusala-kamma. 15, rupa-vachara kusala-kamma. And 16, arupa-vachara kusala-kamma. The first one in group number 4 is akusala-kamma, unwholesome action, with the exception of restlessness. In another sense, this refers to 10 unwholesome course of actions. Akusala-kamma pata. Such unwholesome action is likely to lead to birth in states of misery. The second one in group number 4 is 14, kamma-vachara kusala-kamma. Wholesome kamma on the level of the sense sphere. Kamma-vachara. For example, the 10 bases for meritorious action, punya kiriya vatu. Such action is likely to lead to birth in the 7 sensuous happy planes, the human realm, and the 6 celestial realms. The third one in group number 4 is rupa vachara kusala-kamma. Wholesome action on the level of the fine material plane. This refers to the 4 fine material jhanas of those individuals who have not yet realized the fruit of arihatship. Such action is likely to lead to birth in the fine material sphere. Lastly, in group number 4, 16, arupa-vachara kusala-kamma. Wholesome action on the level of formless plane. This refers to the 4 formless jhanas of those individuals who have not yet realized the fruit of arihatship. Such action is likely to lead to birth in the formless sphere. Now, in the Buddhadhamma, Atta Sangha arranges these 4 groups of kamma in the following order. Group 1 equals group 2. Group 2 to group 3. Group 3 equals group 1. Group 4 equals group 4. The Visuddhimagga arranges the groups as follows. Group 1 to group 1, group 2 to group 3, group 3 to group 2. In the Mano Atta Purina explains the 12 kinds of action in more detail, more than any other text. It defines this classification of action as an exposition by the Sutta specialist. It only counts 11 distinct kinds of action, as it considers ahosi-kamma as simply the condition in which various forms of action do not bear fruit. It claims that this term is inserted in various passages simply to describe various other forms of action, and is thus not distinct from action in itself. It goes on to explain an exposition in accord with the Buddhadhamma. Buddhadhamma pariya refers to the 16 kinds of action based on the 4 accomplishments, samapatti, and the 4 kinds of defects, vipatti. There are several other commentarial texts which present an incomplete description of these various kinds of kamma. Most notably, the Bappacha Suttani, which only explains the first and the second groups. It is fair to say that these 12 kinds of action represent a commentarial interpretation, although some of these factors have a clear basis in the Pali Canon and the Tipitaka. This is true in particular with the first 3 factors of the first group, classified according to the time of taking effect. Here are some noteworthies. Monks, bhikkhus, what is the result of action? The result of action, I say, is threefold. To be experienced in the present, deep Buddhadhamma, or in the next rebirth, upajeva, or in some subsequent occasion, aparivappariyaye. Monks, bhikkhus. There are these 3 causes for the origination of action. What are the 3? Greed, hatred, and delusion. Any action fashioned through greed, born of greed, caused by greed, originated by greed, fashioned through hatred, fashioned through delusion, originated by delusion, ripens wherever the individual is reborn. Wherever that action ripens, it is there that one experiences results, either in the present or in the next, or in some subsequent occasion. The commentary of these sutta passes precisely of the Mano Rata Aruparani, which represents the most detailed description of the 12 kinds of action as cited above. In the Maha-kamma Vibhaga Sutra, Gautama Buddha divides people into 4 kinds, related to the fruitation of action as follows. The first kind of person performs 10 unwholesome courses of action. On the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in the hellish realm. This is because either he did an evil action to be experienced as painful, or rather he did an evil action to be experienced as painful, or at the time of death he maintained acute wrong view. Since he was performed the 10 unwholesome course of action, he will experience the results of either here or now, Buddhadhamma, or in the next rebirth, upajeva, or in some subsequent existence, apariye. The second kind of person similarly performs the 10 unwholesome course of action. Yet, on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a happy destination, even in the heavenly realm. This is because either he did a good action to be experienced as pleasant, or latter he did a good action to be experienced as pleasant, or at the time of death he maintained right view to the full. But since he has performed the 10 unwholesome courses of action, he will experience the results of that either here and now, or in the next rebirth, or in subsequent existence. The third kind of person performs 10 unwholesome course of actions. On the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a happy destination, even in the heavenly realm. This is because either he did a good action to be experienced as pleasant, or later he did a good action to be experienced as present, or at the time of death he maintained right view to the full. Since he has performed the 10 wholesome courses of action, he will experience the results of that either here and now, or in this next birth, or in subsequent existence. The fourth kind of person similarly performs 10 wholesome courses of action. Yet on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. This is because he did an evil action to be experienced as painful. Latter, he did an evil action to be experienced as painful. Or at the time of death, he maintained acute wrong view. But since he has performed the 10 wholesome course of action, he will experience the results of that either here and now, or in the next rebirth, or in some subsequent existence. The commentaries explains passage by using the term Buddhadhamma vedaniya, upaja vedaniya, and aparapariya vedaniya. Furthermore, one is able here to see the suggestion of the source of the conception of a ahosi-kamma, actions performed or reflected upon immediately before death. The Appendix, which recounts the past lives of various disciples, mentions approximate kamma, ahosi-kamma, in numerous passages. One example is the story of an elder who was a hunter in his past life. One day he encountered Tissa, the Buddha. Out of faith, he offered a handful of grass for Tissa, the Buddha, to sit on. And consequently, his mind was pure and bright. Soon after that, he was mauled and killed by a lion. Because of his deeds shortly before death of meeting Tissa, the Buddha, making an offering and gained faith, he was born in heaven. These passages reveal that the consideration of actions close to death and the use of the term ahosi-kamma in this context was prevalent at the time that this early text was composed. The term Buddhadhamma vedaniya kamma is mentioned in several other passages of the Pali Canon in the Tipitaka, but it is paired with the term samparaya vedaniya, bearing fruit in the future. In a group of 10 factors, the remaining 8 factors are sukha vedaniya, bearing fruit in pleasure, dukkha vedaniya, bearing fruit as in pain, paripaka vedaniya, bearing fruit for an individual brought to maturity, bearing fruit for an individual whose time has come, aparipaka vedaniya, bearing fruit for the individual whose time has not yet come, bahu vedaniya, bearing abundant fruit, apa-vedaniya, bearing meager fruit, vedaniya, necessarily bearing fruit, and a-vedaniya, not necessarily bearing fruit. The terms Buddhadhamma vedaniya kamma, upaja vedaniya kamma, and aparapariya vedaniya kamma appear clearly in their complete form in the Kathavatu, which most venerable Moggallana Putra Tissa Thera composed at the time of the third recitation in about 218 before Common Era. The term ahosi-kamma also appears clearly from early on in the Pati Sampata Magga. So In the commentaries present on the additional groups of the 12 kinds of kamma, the 12 kinds of action. Number 1 would be previously performed action, ahosi-kamma, with previously existing fruits of action. Number 2, previously performed action without any previously existing fruits of action. Number 3, previously performed action with the fruits of action presently existent. Number 4, previously performed action with no existing actions, fruits of action. Number 5, previously performed action with fruits of action existing in the future. Number 6, previously performed action with no fruits of action existing in the future. Number 7, existing action with existing fruits of action. Number 8, existing action with no existing fruits of action. Number 9, existing action with fruits of action existing in the future. Number 10, existing action with no fruits of action existing in the future. Number 11, action existing in the future with fruits of action existing in the future. And lastly, number 12, action existing in the future with no fruits of action existing in the future. The commentaries explain this group in conformity with the previous group of the 12 kinds of action, kamma. The gist of the teaching is that there are 6 kinds of kamma, action, that bear fruit. 6 kinds of kamma, action, that do not bear fruit. Note how the term ahosi-kamma here refers to previously performed action. In other terms, garuka and atsina were used in Pali Canon in other contexts. Only in the commentaries were they used to describe the distinct kinds of kamma, action,